Right now, testimony resuming on day 3 of Drew Peterson's murder trial, following some heated arguments before the jury was allowed back in the courtroom. The defense asking for a mistrial for the second time, claiming misconduct by the prosecution. The judge today denying that motion, but certainly gave the prosecution a tough time. Peterson is on trial for the murder of his third wife, Kathleen Savio, back in 2004. The judge today blasting prosecutors over inadmissible testimony about a neighbor supposedly finding a bullet in his driveway. But the judge ruled that Peterson could still get a fair trial and ordered the jury to disregard that testimony. Former prosecutor Faith Jenkins and defense attorney Dwane Cates join us now. So Faith, just a quick, catch us up here for those of us who are non-lawyers. What really was the problem with what the prosecution did?
Well, the testimony that they tried to introduce, that this witness was intimidated because Drew Peterson supposedly left a bullet in his driveway to try to intimidate him, really constituted a prior bad act. Anytime you try to introduce a prior bad act of a defendant, you have to give notice. The defense wants to litigate the possibility of that evidence even being put forth in front of the jury. They didn't have an opportunity here because the prosecution introduced the evidence while the witness was on the stand without giving any notice to the judge or to the defense attorneys. And they're saying that's not fair. You can't unring this bell. The jurors have already heard this testimony from this witness, and now they're going to think that the defendant is this horrible person going around trying to scare people, and it's going to hurt his chances of getting a fair trial.
And so that's why the defense made such an issue of it, Dwane. Do you think in some ways, or let me just say in both ways, what effect is this have on the jury? Does it actually make the prosecution look bad? Because obviously they saw something go on between the defense and the prosecution and the judge, or is this not really that big of a deal for a jury to watch? It's just norm.
Well, juries sometimes get confused and bored because there's so many sidebars, there's so many objections, there's a lot of things going on that they don't understand because they're not really told what's being said at the bench. But again, you can't unring a bell. Like I said, once the jury hears information, no matter what instruction the judge gives them, no matter what the judge does, he can't make the jury unhear what they heard.
So you think this could be damaging to the defense still?
Well, I think it is somewhat damaging to the defense, and again, this isn't the first time that the prosecution made an error like this. I mean, they made an error in opening statement, about inadmissible evidence, and this is just, you just can't have these things, especially in a high-profile trial. You think they'd be better prepared and understand what they can and can't use as evidence.
Faith, what do you think about that? Why is this prosecution getting in so much trouble? Is this part of a strategy? Are they testing the limits, or are they just messing up?
Well, here's the thing. There's not a lot of this is a case where there's not a lot of physical evidence. There are no eyewitnesses. There's no confession. So the prosecutors are really basing their case on hearsay testimony and also the medical examiner's report. So they don't have a lot. It is their burden. They have to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. That is a high burden. So what they're doing is trying to use everything they possibly can to prove their case. And they are pushing this to the edge. And that's why you're seeing these motions for mistrials. I think there's been 2 at this point. That's why you're seeing this happen, because they are really trying to do everything they can because they believe Drew Peterson is guilty of murder, and they are trying to prove their case.
We'll see what strategy the defense comes up with when it's their turn, and we're a little ways away from that. Dwane and Faith, nice to have you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.